is Good Morning Indiana, working for you.
It is 5 o'clock here on your Wednesday. Good morning to you. I'm Lauren Casey.
And I'm Meredith Barrick. Here's what's making headlines on this February the 12th. As local leaders and community members continue to look for an answer to end the uptick in deadly gun violence, we're looking at why an ordinance designed to help police tackle the issue failed and what's next.
You have failed this victim. How dare you?
Plus, tense moments at a Northwest Hendricks County School Board meeting. Our Kelsey Anderson is live this morning with why calls for the firing of a teacher charged with child seduction have gone unanswered and reaction from those parents.
And Vic on 6 is back. Our Dave First sits down with Pacer star Victor Oladipo to get his thoughts on the season and how things are going since his return to the court. But first, we need to get a check of our Storm Team 6 forecast. Calm and quiet now, but that is all going to change very soon.
That's right. Todd Clausen is standing by. And Todd, can you break down what's going on right now and ease our fears a little bit about later today? A lot of talk's been going on social media.
Yeah, you know, this morning you get to work just fine. Storm Team 6 radar behind me, completely quiet. You'll not even see a drop or a flake the first half of the day. It's all this afternoon and this evening that you start to need to get a little concerned more about the weather. And the quicker you can get home from work this evening, the better off you'll be, as we just have clouds across the area right now. But it's a big storm system with a lot of moisture tapping into the Gulf of Mexico that's going to be heading our way later on this afternoon and into the evening hours. Winter weather advisories are posted north of Indianapolis, and you see it comes in briefly as snow for everybody, but this rain snow line will creep to the north pretty quickly throughout the course of the afternoon hours, and there's just going to be an extremely fine line between the snow to the north and the mixed precipitation from basically Indianapolis to the south. So for those of you to the north, and we're talking Lafayette, Peru, over into the Muncie area, this is mainly going to be a snow event. For everybody else, it's a mix of snow, sleet, and freezing rain, and then just plain old rain as you get down to the south. So throughout the afternoon hours, we'll watch for this rain-snow combo to start to develop. I don't think there's much in the way of accumulation until late tonight, and then the bulk of that snowfall is actually going to happen overnight into your Thursday morning commute. There's a lot to talk about. We'll share snowfall amounts and use TrueCast all the way into Thursday morning coming up in just a few minutes. Lauren.
All right, Todd, thanks so much. Here is a live look right now at traffic in the downtown area. Very quiet this Wednesday morning. I-70 and I-65 here at the North Split. We'll continue to keep an eye out for any crashes or delays throughout the morning and keep you updated if you need to reroute. Senator Bernie Sanders has claimed victory in New Hampshire, pulling out a tight victory last night over former South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
And in a surprising twist, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar took third place. The Minnesota senator gaining a surge of momentum in recent days. The night, however, not unfolding as Elizabeth Warren had hoped. She is now tied with former Vice President Joe Biden, who took a late flight to South Carolina, where he hopes support among African-American voters will give him a boost. But back in New Hampshire, the theme of the night from the frontrunners was party unity.
We know that we cannot win big by trying to outdivide the divider in chief. We know that we win by bringing people with us instead of shutting them out.
We are going to unite together and defeat the most dangerous president in the modern history of this country.
And I know that we all share the spirit that we heard from some of our volunteers at a poll site earlier today who welcomed a competing candidate with chants of vote blue no matter who. We are on the same team.
Meanwhile, New Hampshire was the end of the road for Andrew Yang. The businessman announced he is suspending his campaign, saying the numbers just aren't there. And after getting a late start, Colorado Senator Michael Bennet also ended his campaign.
Turning now back locally, as the city continues to look for an answer to the uptick in violence, we've learned that an ordinance designed to help curb crime failed 5 years ago. In 2015, then Mayor Greg Ballard vetoed the ordinance that would have required gun owners to report their guns stolen within 48 hours of theft or pay a fine. That's because in 2011, state law preempts local governments from regulating firearms and ammunition. Kip Tu, a former city county council member, says the ordinance may not have ended gun violence completely, but it would have been a start.
It wasn't the answer to our gun violence by any stretch of the imagination, but it was definitely one more tool that they could use to help them in fighting crime, tracking guns, tracking what's going on in this community.
Opponents of the ordinance say giving gun owners extra responsibility is not the answer. And as of right now, the Indianapolis mayor's office says a new ordinance is not on its radar.
Working for you, we went to the northeast side of the city to hear from people who live in neighborhoods impacted by recent crime. The community is still dealing with the loss of 4 young adults after a quadruple homicide last week. Many living in the area say poverty and violence are ongoing issues, and they're frustrated with some local leaders. They also tell us they feel like their voices aren't being heard.
People downtown want to give you what they think you need instead of asking you what you really need.
There's a lot of killing going on, and we need a place where they can come together so we can educate them to let them know it's more than getting angry and picking up a gun.
Some of that work is already being done at places like the Boys and Girls Club and the Community Alliance of the Far East Side Center. The center offers services like employment coaching, behavioral health counseling, leadership development camp, and much more.
At 5:06, tensions were high at last night's Northwest Hendricks County School Board meeting. The first meeting since Tri-West teacher and coach Tyler Bruce was arrested and charged with child seduction and obstruction of justice. This is a story RTV6 has been following for months now, and our Kelsey Anderson joins us live this morning with what parents are asking now of the school board. Kelsey, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Lauren. So those parents are asking for 2 things. 1, for Bruce to be fired immediately, and 2, for the entire school board to resign. Now, this has been a story RTV6 has done at least a dozen stories on since July, when an anonymous tip started the investigation into teacher and coach Tyler Bruce. He's since been charged with child seduction and obstruction of justice. Parents at last night's meeting are frustrated, saying Bruce should have been fired immediately. But a spokeswoman for the school board says Indiana law is the reason they couldn't, but now that he's been arrested and charged, she says now they can move towards terminating Bruce. She understands the frustration over this slow process, but she says she believes once this legal process is over, there will be an opportunity for the community to speak to the school board.
I think at this point, none of us want to talk to him. We want him gone. They just need to resign. There's no rebuilding any trust with any of them.
And we're having a few problems with Kelsey's shot there. We'll have more from Tri-West coming up. The full video of the school board meeting last night and all the stories we've done on this case are now on the RTV6 mobile app. We'll continue to follow this story throughout the morning. Now we want to go to an investigation into health concerns at a Decatur Township school. It begins today with interviews of their staff members.
The purpose is to get information and determine a plan of attack. The Blue and Gold Academy is off of Man Road in Indianapolis share a facility. It's home to 147 staff members and almost 1,400 students. RTV6 has learned the health issues involve teachers reporting head-related tumors. Most recently in August and September of last year, this past January, as well as 1 case in 2018. The 4 cases led to the school district hiring an environmental company to investigate before any testing is started.
Faculty that are there, the students that go there, I treat that as if this is my own family. And the whole idea was this, is that the fact that we have people even speculating this, wanted to go ahead and take action to be able to address it.
The school district says the investigation and testing could take several months. The superintendent tells us handling and resolving this issue is a top priority. We have a full report on this developing story right now on the RTV6 app and the IndyChannel.com.
Well, he's back on the court and now back on RTV6. The Pacers' Victor Oladipo makes his big return with RTV6 sports director Dave First and Vic on 6. The Pacers star sat down with us to talk about the last 2 weeks since his return. The team has been in a slump, dropping 6 games in a row, but Oladipo says he's ready to help turn that around and get back into a good rhythm with his teammates.
Yeah, we're trying to definitely form that and get used to each other. And I don't think people realize, me coming back in, I'm obviously have a strong personality and a strong, game that demands a lot of attention and whatever the case may be. So you got to really adjust to something like that, adding to a team that was, pretty much flowing already.
The Pacers face off against the Milwaukee Bucks tonight at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. Tip-off set for 7:30. You can watch the entire Vic on 6 interview right now on the RTV6 app.
Butler Blue 4 getting ready to take the next step in his training to become Butler University's mascot. Blue 3, also known as Tripp, tweeted that his successor is picking up the mascot duties pretty quickly, so he's feeling good about passing the collar to the pup. This is a picture of Tripp's collar ceremony from several years ago. Blue 4's ceremony will take place at Hinkle Fieldhouse on Saturday, February 29th, but Tripp will still be the official mascot and report for duty until May. That is, if we can wake him from his winter slumber there. That's what I wish I was doing right about now. I think you agree, Todd.
Without a doubt, right? Especially with the weather that we have coming in over the next 24 hours. So it's a Storm Team 6 alert day, and it's mainly for this afternoon and into the evening hours. Your morning commute is just fine. In fact, as far as morning commutes go, tomorrow I think is going to be the rougher commute and probably the roughest commute of this afternoons and into the day tomorrow. So it's an alert day, dry in the morning here. Snow and rain will develop after 1 o'clock, and that's key. It's snow and rain for a good chunk of us, with the snow initially confined just to northern locations, but it goes over to all snow for everybody after midnight when the colder air comes in. And that's an important thing to point out, because many of you probably go to bed tonight without any snow on the ground, maybe some slush. Those of you in northern locations, it's a little bit different, but here's how your rain chances and snow chances ramp up throughout the day today, and it's mainly throughout the afternoon and into the evening hours. This storm system itself, it has a lot of moisture to work with, but what we really need to do is wait for the colder air to come in, and that's going to be more late tonight and into tomorrow. As you see, temperatures throughout the entire day will stay above freezing. So we'll talk more about the rain, snow breakdown, and potential snowfall totals for you coming up in Maine Weather in just a few minutes.
Todd, thank you. A stunning shakeup in the Roger Stone case, why all 4 federal prosecutors quit, and what that means for his upcoming sentencing.
And major developments in the fight against the coronavirus, the new name given to the disease, and when we could see a vaccine. That's coming up.
For life, visit the Hiring Hoosiers job board.
A stunning shakeup in the Roger Stone case. All 4 federal prosecutors have quit.
The news came just hours after their sentencing request was undercut by the Justice Department and slammed publicly by President Trump. Prosecutors had recommended a 7 to 9 year sentence for Stone, who was convicted of witness tampering, obstructing, and lying to Congress. Now the U.S. Attorney in Washington is asking for, quote, far less prison time, saying that the previous recommendation was too harsh. President Trump also tweeting that it was, quote, disgraceful, and that, quote, this is a horrible and very unfair situation. The Justice Department says their reversal was made before the president's tweet, and that the president also denies interfering. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi have called for an investigation by the Inspector General. Meanwhile, President Trump pulled his nomination for Jessie Liu to serve in a top Treasury position. Liu is a former attorney who headed to the office that oversaw Roger Stone and Michael Flynn's prosecutions. She was nominated to serve as the Treasury Department's Undersecretary for Terrorism and Financial Crimes back in December. Liu was scheduled for a Senate hearing on Thursday. It's unclear if the nomination is withdrawn related to the developments in that Stone case.
Also in Washington, a proposal to grant statehood to D.C. has advanced and will be sent to the House floor. The Washington, D.C. Admission Act was first introduced in January of last year. It would make D.C. a state and provide its 700,000 residents with 2 U.S. senators and at least 1 U.S. House member. The bill is expected to pass the House, where its supporters include Speaker Nancy Pelosi and House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer. It's unclear if it will be passed by the Senate. It's also unclear if President Trump would pass the bill if it made its way to his desk.
Jussie Smollett is facing new charges in Chicago. This after police in the city accused the former Empire actor of faking a hate crime last year. Smollett claimed that he was attacked by 2 men because he's black and openly gay, but police say the incident was staged in an attempt to gain publicity. Prosecutors later dropped the disorderly conduct charges against Smollett, sparking backlash from Chicago's mayor and police. A special prosecutor was appointed to investigate this case. Tuesday, the prosecutor announced that a grand jury indicted Smollett on 6 counts. He's due in court on February 24th.
Friday will mark 2 years since 17 people lost their lives in the deadliest high school shooting in U.S. history. And today, victims and survivors of the massacre at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School will be honored on what's being called a day of conversation. The documentary film After Parkland will be screened in select theaters across the country. It features survivors' stories and their fight for change in gun control laws, including a well-publicized nationwide school walkout and the March for Our Lives rally. The documentary will begin streaming nationwide on Hulu on February 19th.
It is 5:17, and a 7-year-old boy in Alaska is being praised for his quick thinking after he and his 3 cousins got lost in a blizzard. The boys, ages 2 to 14, were on a snow machine ride on the edge of the Yukon Delta National Wildlife Refuge when the snow there started to intensify. 7-year-old Ethan Camille says that the group first tried to find their way home, but it got too cold, so he came up with the idea to dig a hole and sleep in it to keep warm. The boys spent the night together before being rescued the next day. Ethan is being treated for frostbite, but he's expected to make a full recovery. Good story there. Back here at home, we are expecting a little bit of snow later today, Todd, but it is quiet this morning.
Yeah, this morning it's all quiet, and we're in alert mode for what's going to happen later on. And you mentioned the snow, Lauren. It's only snow for some of you. For those of you in southern locations, this is mainly going to be a rain event. For those of you right along I-70, it's kind of a rain and snow event. And then for those of you to the north, it's just a snow event through the duration of everything. So the morning commute today is dry. You really have no issues whatsoever getting to work. The precipitation is going to arrive after 3 o'clock for most of us. Arrives a little earlier in some southern locations. And then there's a sharp cutoff in snowfall totals. I can foresee, and I don't know which given county it's going to be, most likely north of I-70, where the northern part of the county probably picks up 3 to 5 inches of snow, and the southern part of that county just kind of has a slushy inch of rain. That's how sharp of a cutoff these snowfall totals will be later on this afternoon. So the clouds are currently in place across the area. We'll expand out. We'll show you the snow and the rain down to our south. And the one thing that this storm system does have is a tremendous amount of moisture. So it's going to be a very wet system for us as it comes in. And for some of you, it's going to produce quite a bit of snow. Winter weather advisories are posted for counties along I-70 and to the north. This goes into effect at 1 p.m. It continues all the way until 1 p.m. tomorrow. And I really think tomorrow morning's commute is probably going to be the biggest issue of any commute that we have, whether it's this evening or, again, during the day tomorrow. So let's time it out for you. And keep in mind, temperatures right now are in the 20s. We'll be in the mid-30s by the time we get to the noon hour. So as this precipitation and rise from south to north, it could initially at the onset start as a little bit of a wintry mix for everybody, but then it goes over to all rain, especially to the south. Snow to the north for your evening drive home. But with temperatures above freezing and the sun still up, there's probably not much in the way of accumulation on the roadways until after the sun sets. That's going to be the key time, which is a little after 6 o'clock. So at this point, snow is continuing to the north. It's mainly rain, transitioning to rain in and around the metro area. And you see how thin this band is of the mixed precipitation. So that's something we'll keep an eye on throughout the evening hours. And then the bulk of this accumulating snow for most of us is going to actually be after midnight into your Thursday morning commute. So it's kind of 2 waves here. The wintry mix this evening and then snow as we go into the overnight hours. The one exception, again, those of you far enough to the north where it's snow for the duration of this event. So as far as potential accumulation, south of Indianapolis, less than an inch, 1 to 3 inches of slushy accumulation initially. And then as the colder air comes in tomorrow, it's a little more of a fluffier snow. And then from Lafayette, say over to Gas City and points to the north, that's where you get into some of the 3 to 6 inch totals. So don't be alarmed this evening for some of you. If you go to bed and you really don't have much in the way of snow on the ground, you'll get it overnight into Thursday morning. So make sure you tune in with us tomorrow morning as well. And then Valentine's Day, very, very cold. The high of only 20 degrees. It's short-lived, though. Back into the 40s for Saturday and Sunday. Lauren.
All right, Todd, thanks so much. Here is a live look right now at traffic on the northeast side, I-465 near Fall Creek Road. Traffic here is moving along smoothly, northbound and southbound. No issues, no delays. So let's take a look at our traffic now map. Planning out your drive heading in from the east side on westbound I-70. It's a 10-minute drive from Post Road to I-65 at the north split.
Major steps in the fight against the outbreak of the coronavirus. The disease now has an official name. The World Health Organization has dubbed it COVID-19. COVID-19. That's because the word coronavirus refers to the group of viruses it belongs to rather than the latest strain. Researchers say they wanted to pick a name that wouldn't refer to a certain location, animal, or group of people. Health experts believe the virus originated in bats, then spread to humans. The WHO says a vaccine could be ready in about a year. They're also working on developing diagnostic and treatment tools.
At 5:22, invasive cervical cancer could be eliminated in the U.S. within the next 20 years. That's according to a new study. Researchers say increasing screening coverage to 90% could speed up the elimination of that disease. They say this would be more effective than current levels of screening and the HPV vaccination recommendations. HPV is the cause of most cervical cancer cases. Doctors say just one dose of the HPV vaccine may be just as effective as 2 or 3 doses, but multiple doses are still recommended. The CDC currently recommends 2 doses of the HPV vaccine for boys and girls ages 11 and 12. A heartwarming moment caught on camera at Target. See the ad campaign that stunned a little boy and brought tears to his mom's eyes.
And the Fountain Square Library is one step closer to closing its doors. When that could happen and what business will be moving in. We'll be right back.
Easy Boy Furniture Galleries. Live life comfortably.
An Arizona mother is sharing a major win that brought a smile to her son's face. Oliver was on a Target run with his mom when he stopped dead in his tracks. Ollie relies on a wheelchair to get around, so when he saw a little boy in an advertisement who looked just like him, he was amazed. Ollie's mom shared their story on Facebook, which quickly went viral. Target launched the more inclusive ads recently and refreshes them regularly. Ollie and his mom say they hope other stores will follow suit. So sweet. Yeah. What a cutie.
And his little suspenders that he had on that shot. So
darling.
Cute.
All right. Well,
love that story.
Unfortunately, the weather is not going to warm our hearts quite like that story did.
No, not at all here today. It's going to get pretty sloppy later on this afternoon. This morning on the Storm Team 6 alert day, it is dry. That is the good news. We're going to see rain and snow arrive anytime after about 1 o'clock in southern locations. And then this evening, it's so to the north. Rain and snow in southern locations. We'll break it all down for you coming up when Good Morning Indiana continues. The time now is 5:27.
Day at 10 on RTV6. This is Good Morning Indiana, working for you.
Now at 5:30, tense moments at a Northwest Hendricks County School Board meeting last night. This after a teacher was arrested and charged with child seduction. Our Kelsey Anderson is joining us live with parent reaction and why those parents are now calling on the board to resign.
And big changes in the Democratic presidential race after the results in the New Hampshire primary. Hear from the candidate that came out on top and those that dropped out. But first, we need to take a check at our forecast. This is the scene now. About 12 hours from now, things are going to look a lot different.
Yeah, it is a Storm Team 6 alert day for what's going to happen later today, and Todd Clausen is breaking down what we can expect.
Yeah, there's going to be a whole mix of rain and snow coming in. It really just depends on where you live today and what you'll see precipitation-wise. The further south you are, it's more just a rain event. The further north you are, it's a little more in the way of snow. But the storm system itself still well off to our south, and there's a lot of moisture with it. That's a given. There's a lot of rain or snow that's going to be heading our way depending on where you live. Now, temperatures this morning are below freezing, but as this precipitation arrives, we're going to be in the mid-30s later on this afternoon, and that is going to allow any rain and snow to change over to mostly rain for a good chunk of us during the afternoon and evening hours. And you notice even by 4 p.m. there may be some snow falling from the sky, but the question is it going to be intense enough to overcome the warmer temperatures at the surface to start to accumulate? I think a lot of this accumulation doesn't take place until once we get past sunset. So for Terre Haute, Bloomington, over into the Greensburg area, this is mainly a rain event. Areas in pink here, Crawfordsville, Indy, Muncie, rain and snow back and forth, 1 to 3 inches of a slushy kind of mess. And then to the north, it's mainly snow, Lafayette up to Kokomo as well as Peru. We'll talk more about these snowfall totals in detail for you coming up in just a few minutes.
Todd, thank you. We're keeping a close eye on traffic as you're heading out the door for your Wednesday morning commute. This is a look on the north side, I-465 in Detroit. Traffic here moving along up to speed. No delays to slow you down. Let's plan out your commute in Hamilton County. Heading southbound on I-69 this morning. Starting back here at State Road 13, heading to the I-465 ramps. That drive time is just 13 minutes, so no delays. Let's take you down to the southeast side. Give you a live picture of traffic in that area near I-465 and Arlington Avenue. You can see everything's moving along up to speed eastbound and westbound. Of course, we'll keep you updated.
Tensions were high at last night's Northwest Hendricks County School Board meeting, the first meeting since Tri-West teacher and coach Tyler Bruce was arrested and charged with child seduction and obstruction of justice.
And this is a story that RTV6 has been following for months now. Our Kelsey Anderson joins us live this morning. And Kelsey, tell us some more about the frustrations that the parents spoke out against last night.
Well, what they're frustrated by is the fact that, A, Tyler Bruce wasn't fired immediately, and then they're also frustrated by several decisions that the school board was making, and some parents even calling for the entire board to resign last night. RTV6 has done at least a dozen stories on this case since July, when an anonymous tip started the investigation into teacher and coach Tyler Bruce. He's since been charged with child seduction and obstruction of justice. Bruce was put on paid leave during the investigation, and parents are upset that swift action wasn't taken by the school. But a spokeswoman for the board points to Indiana law as the reason for the slow process, but she says now that Bruce has been arrested and charged, they can move forward.
That was the legal trigger for us to say we can terminate him, and we will move forward with that termination.
The process will still take some time. According to the spokeswoman, Bruce has exercised his right to due process and has requested a meeting with the superintendent. Now, there were a lot of emotions at that meeting last night, so if you want to watch the full video of that meeting and all the other stories we've done on this case, we've got it for you over on the RTV6 News app. Reporting live, Kelsey Anderson, RTV6.
Kelsey, thank you. Investigators are looking at body camera and squad car footage to find out what led up to a police shooting in Lawrence. Police say an officer shot a man suspected of shoplifting from a clothing store around 2:30 yesterday afternoon on East 56th Street at the I-465 interchange. It happened after a chase involving two suspects. Assistant Police Chief Gary Woodruff says officers were not shot at by the suspects, and he was not sure if either man was armed. The man who was shot is in critical condition. Police arrested the second suspect. Investigators say they both had outstanding warrants, one for cocaine possession, one for a probation violation. Woodruff says the department should have an update on the investigation later today.
At 5:35 this morning, Metro Police are working overtime to solve two recent shootings that killed 5 people on the northeast side. Chief Randall Taylor says after hearing from the community and the families of the victims, he felt that extra work needed to be done. Police say no arrests have been made in either shooting that left a Subway employee dead and another killing 4 people at an apartment complex. To help in the search, Taylor launched a special homicide tip line where anyone who knows something can speak directly to detectives who are standing by for 48 hours to answer phones. Chief Taylor also stayed late and took some calls himself.
You know, I'm not sure how big of an impact it'll have, but I'm just trying to do anything that I can to generate some responses. Our detectives do great work and they work these things hard, but they need some help with this, and I want to try to give them that.
Well, you can call the tip line at 317-327-3475. It's open now through Thursday afternoon. If you'd like to remain anonymous, Crime Stoppers also has someone standing by at 317-262-TIPS. At 5:36, America has its first declared state victor in the 2020 campaign. Senator Bernie Sanders has won the New Hampshire primary.
Pete Buttigieg was not far behind, but other frontrunners had a tough night with 2 candidates even dropping out. ABC's Trevor Alt has the breakdown from New Hampshire.
New Hampshire voters have spoken. Senator Bernie Sanders wins the first in the nation primary.
This victory here is the beginning of the end for Donald Trump.
Sanders had won New Hampshire in 2016 by 22 points, but this victory far closer, edging out Mayor Pete Buttigieg by only a few thousand votes.
A campaign that some said shouldn't be here at all has shown that we are here to stay.
Rounding out the top tier, Senator Amy Klobuchar, riding a late wave of support from her most recent ABC debate performance and pushing a message of unity and sensibility.
Donald Trump's worst nightmare is that the people in the middle, the people who have had enough of the name calling and the mudslinging, have someone to vote for in November.
But for several candidates, the night was underwhelming at best. Andrew Yang and Senator Michael Bennet have now dropped out, while Senator Elizabeth Warren and former Vice President Joe Biden, once frontrunners nationally, both finished with single-digit support. Still, they're vowing to fight on.
Where I come from, that's the opening bell, not the closing bell.
And remember, these state votes are about more than just seeing who wins. They're about collecting delegates for the nomination, and that math can be a little bit odd. Even though Senator Bernie Sanders has gotten more votes in Iowa and New Hampshire, Mayor Pete Buttigieg has earned 2 more delegates than Sanders has. Trevor Ault, ABC News, Manchester, New Hampshire.
Trevor, thank you. An Indianapolis woman says her life will never be the same after a dump truck crashed into her SUV. Now, she's filed a lawsuit against the driver and the trucking company. Sue Ann Bodine is paralyzed from the waist down after a dump truck crashed into her SUV on Rockville Road in September. The 11-vehicle pileup killed a couple from Danville. Sue Ann is suing the driver and the Zionsville-based trucking company, North American Environmental Services. Court records show Danny Williams was behind the wheel of that dump truck. He told police he had been snorting heroin. Sue Ann now relies on around-the-clock nursing care, and her medical bills are mounting.
In just moments, my life was in a shambles. My hopes and dreams for the future are gone, at least at this moment. I can't drive. I can't work. There's a lot of medical problems that I never would have anticipated.
The lawsuit alleges the dump truck was underinsured and the company negligently hired and supervised Williams, and that Williams failed to operate his commercial motor vehicle with reasonable care. Williams is facing 7 criminal charges stemming from the crash, and his trial is scheduled for March 18th. Now, we did reach out to Williams and the trucking company for a response. So far, we have not received any statements.
It is 5:39. An ordinance aimed at better protections for pets in Carmel will be introduced next Monday. In the fall, Hamilton County commissioners overhauled the animal cruelty ordinance to define things like adequate shelter and medical care. But that only applies to county incorporated areas, not cities. Councilor Adam Austin is behind the new similar proposal in Carmel.
The whole point of this ordinance is we just want to make sure that everyone in Carmel is happy, healthy, and safe, and that really does apply to everyone, including pets, our furry friends.
The ordinance would also prohibit pet stores from selling dogs obtained from puppy mills or backyard breeders.
New this morning, a closing date is being set for the Indianapolis Public Library's Fountain Square branch. The library's closing was announced back in 2015 as part of a plan to relocate services to the new West Perry branch. At Tuesday's meeting, the Public Library Board of Trustees preliminary approved Fountain Square's facility to close May 8th. The board says the early move will save the library more than $60,000. A nonprofit organization, Indy Reads, will then move into the Virginia Avenue location in August. The closing date still needs to be approved by the full library board. That meeting will be held on February 24th. Well, Todd, today will be a great day to curl up with a book and stay indoors.
Yeah, you know, especially once the kids come home from school. As you walk out the door and you get the kids ready for the bus stop this morning, you just need to bundle up. It's dry across the area. The temperature will be in the mid to upper 20s for most of us. It's once the kids come home from school that we're dealing with a rain-snow mixture. I've gotten some questions about early dismissals. I probably don't see that happening across most of the area because the snow probably doesn't arrive in many locations until 2, 3 o'clock onward throughout the afternoon hours. And even once that precipitation does start, it's going to take a little while for it to start to accumulate, if that even happens in your neighborhood. So here's the storm system right now. Down to our south, it's going to start to lift to the north pretty quickly here this afternoon. To break it down this morning, no issues at all. Dry roads for you. This afternoon, rain and snow. It's going to get slushy across parts of the area, but I really think it's the Thursday morning commute that could be the toughest one of all of them, and that's because the colder air comes back in overnight, transitions everybody over to snow. So Thursday morning roads could be snow covered in many locations. We'll break it down using TrueCast for you hour by hour coming up in just a few minutes.
Todd, thank you. The Trump administration proposing a big change to how the government regulates tobacco products. Coming up, why the newest plan would take oversight away from the FDA.
And Samsung is hoping to bring back the flip phone. Still ahead, a look at the company's newest technology featuring professional grade cameras and foldable screens. It's 5:42. We'll be right back.
Janssen can help. Visit Xarelto.com.
The Trump administration is hoping to change the way tobacco e-cigarette products are regulated. The latest proposal would remove those products from the Food and Drug Administration's control. Instead of the FDA, a new agency based out of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services would take over. The plan was laid out in President Trump's new $4.1 trillion budget. The administration says the new agency would only focus on tobacco and its impact on public health. They also believe it would respond quicker to the growing complexity of new products. The proposal comes after the FDA received criticism for softening its stance on flavored vaping products due to industry pressure. Critics like the American Lung Association are concerned that the plan could give more control to the tobacco industry.
At 5:46, coronavirus evacuees in California threw their face masks into the air now that their quarantine time is over. The first group of Americans who fled the virus in China have been at a March Reserve Air Base for 14 days now. Many of the evacuees were department workers. After screening most of them, they plan to board buses to nearby airports and then head home. No one in that group tested positive for the virus. Some evacuees say they're thankful for the government's precautions.
We're grateful that we did do the full quarantine in a way, because at first I was kind of nervous to go back to my family. Like, what if I did get them sick?
Yeah.
So now that we've had 14 days, I mean, there's literally no chance we could have it.
Hundreds of other people who evacuated Wuhan last week are still counting down the days until their 2-week quarantine ends. They were flown to bases in California, Nebraska, and Texas. At 5:47 back here at home, we got to talk about our forecast on the Storm Team 6 alert day, Todd.
There's a lot going on in this forecast as we're going to be dealing with a whole bunch of different precipitation types over the course of really a 24-hour period. So it's not just this evening. When you think of the storm system, you have to think of the entire duration. And I'll explain what I mean by that, as you'll see different forms of precipitation at different times. The winter weather advisory you saw there is for all the counties from Indianapolis to the north. That'll go into effect starting at 1 o'clock here this afternoon and going all the way into tomorrow afternoon. The clouds are starting to thicken across the area. Your morning commute today, it's going to be dry. You don't have to worry about anything this morning, but kind of prepare yourself for later on this afternoon with the umbrella. Maybe you want to wear the boots into work because it's going to get wet. There's going to be puddles. It's going to get a little slushy as well as this storm system starts to lift to the north and brings its precipitation here into central Indiana. We're in the 20s right now. We'll climb into the mid-30s later on this afternoon. So everybody's going to be above freezing. As the precipitation arrives, there could be a quick burst of snow in almost all locations. But to the south, you quickly go over to all rain. We'll see some rain and snow in the metro area transition over to mainly rain as we get into the evening hours. For those of you to the north, Lafayette, Kokomo, over towards Muncie and Gas City, this is for the most part going to be a snow event for you, but you do see the rain snow line does get up to Crawfordsville, Tipton, and into the Muncie area later on this evening. So as far as accumulation, could be some slushy accumulation here through the heart of the central Indiana this evening, but I think the bulk of the accumulating snow for a lot of us is going to actually be after midnight as the colder air comes in. And so as some of you go to bed this evening, you may be thinking, what's all this talk about accumulating snow? I got some slush outside. outside my front door, but not a whole lot in the way of snow. But this system, as the colder air comes in, is not going to wrap up until probably the tail end of the morning commute tomorrow with some snow. So here is the snowfall potential in a couple different models. And the consensus is that the computer models that we look at, this is for Indianapolis, generally around 2 inches of snow. The outlier, this one, the RPM, that's keeping a lot of it in the form of just plain old rain. So we'll call for 1 to 3 slushy inches in and around the metro area along I-70, 3 to 6 inches to the north. And keep in mind, when I always post these snowfall bands, for the most part, the bigger numbers you see, 6, further north you go. In this band, 1 to 3, it's probably closer to 1 to 2 inches in Indianapolis, those 3-inch totals, closer to Lafayette, Crawfordsville, and Tipton. And then down to the south, we're not looking at much of anything in the way of that initial accumulation. You could see maybe up to an inch on the backside tomorrow morning. So Thursday morning's commute, it's probably going to be the toughest. Behind this storm system, a quick shot of very, very cold air. Friday morning, Valentine's Day, 6 degrees, a high of only 20 in the afternoon. Good news is it doesn't linger long, though. We're back up into the 40s with sunshine, Lauren, on Saturday.
All right, Todd, thanks so much. Here's a look right now at your drive times as you're heading out there to kick off your Wednesday. Traveling northbound right now on State Road 37, starting in Barkersville near State Road 144. Heading northbound to the I-465 ramps, a 14-minute drive at this early hour. And then over here on northbound I-65 from Whiteland Road in Johnson County up to I-70 at the North Split, you can expect an 18-minute drive on the northbound interstate. Let's take a look at the North Split right now from our INDOT traffic camera. You can see everything here is traveling up to speed. Still pretty quiet out there at this early hour.
The $26 billion merger between T-Mobile and Sprint has been approved. After years of efforts, a federal judge ruled Monday that the nation's third and fourth largest wireless carriers would be allowed to combine. The judge said he didn't think the companies would, quote, pursue anti-competitive behavior. The ruling rejected the lawsuit by a dozen states against the merger. The new company will keep T-Mobile's name and could be finalized in early April.
Samsung has unveiled its latest smartphone, the Galaxy S20. The company showed off the phone's new camera, saying it's capable of taking professional-grade photos and videos. The line has 3 variants, which are all 5G compatible and also have a bigger battery. They range in price from nearly $1,000 to $1,400. They also released their new foldable phone. It's called the Z Flip, and it's reminiscent of the flip phones of the late 90s, early 2000s. The square shape can open up into one large screen. The purple and black Z Flips will be released Friday. The new Galaxy phones are available for pre-order online on the 21st.
There were thousands of top dogs, but only one could be best in show. After the break, the breed that won this year's Westminster Dog Show.
Only on RTV6 News.
Welcome back. It's 5:55. There's a new Best in Show. The winner of the 144th Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show is Siba, a standard poodle. She was chosen from 7 finalists, including a Whippet, Havanese, Shetland Sheepdog, and Golden Retriever. Nearly 3,000 dogs come from all around the world to compete. This is the 5th time a standard poodle has won Best in Show, and the first time since 1991. And I think they're all so cute. I don't know how they decide. All right, back here at home, we want to get a look at our forecast for today. It's a Storm Team 6 alert day, not for what's going on right now, but later, Todd.
Yeah, it's later this afternoon that we get into a rain-snow mixture, and then especially overnight into Thursday morning. That's when we'll potentially have the bulk of the snowfall accumulation across the area. The storm system itself still is off down to our south, although you do notice a little precipitation already approaching the tip of Indiana down close to the Evansville area. But all this will overspread central Indiana throughout the course of the afternoon and evening hours. We're in the 20s and 30s right now, so we are below freezing. We'll be above freezing, though, as we work our way into the afternoon hours. So it's just kind of a sloppy mess here throughout the afternoon and evening hours. We'll talk more about the evening commute beyond and all the way into your Thursday morning drive coming up when Good Morning Indiana continues. The time now is 5:56. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a few minutes.